Hello, Virgo. It's Anna. Welcome back to Virgo. And listen, I debated how to open this one because the energy that came through is not soft. It is not the slow, quiet unfolding we sometimes sit with together. What arrived today has edges, it has voltage. It is the kind of thing that makes you set down whatever you are holding and just stop. So I am not going to ease you into this gently. I am going to trust that you are ready for it because the fact that you are here watching this on this particular day suggests that some part of you already knows something is coming. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Subscribe if this lands, because what we explore here is not for the faint of heart. Let's go straight into it. Lightning does not apologize for the dark it interrupts. It simply arrives without warning, without the courtesy of a countdown, and for one suspended fraction of a second, everything that was hidden in the darkness becomes visible. Every edge, every outline, every shape that the night had been quietly keeping to itself. And then the darkness returns, but it is not the same darkness it was before, because now you have seen. And seeing, even briefly, even in the disorienting flash of something you were not prepared for, changes the geography of what you thought you knew. Something like that seems to be moving toward you. Not the gentle revelation, not the gradual dawning that gives you time to adjust your eyes, but the lightning kind, the kind that arrives in a single irreversible moment and rearranges everything you thought was settled into something that requires entirely new navigation. The question is not whether you are ready. You are never ready for lightning. The question is whether you are grounded enough to receive it without being destroyed by it. And something in the energy around you suggests that you are, that the very things you have been building quietly, stubbornly, in the long stretches when nothing visible was happening, have been laying exactly the kind of foundation that makes it possible to withstand the arrival of something enormous. The shock is coming, but so is the clarity that only shock can bring. There is a particular kind of truth that refuses to be delivered gently. Not because it is cruel. Cruelty and impact are not the same thing, though we often confuse them, but because the size of it simply exceeds what gentle delivery can contain. Because the shape of it does not fit through the narrow aperture of gradual revelation. Because some things, by their very nature, can only arrive all at once, whole and undeniable, and too large to be received in pieces. Whew, this is that kind of truth. Something has been true for a while, perhaps a long while, that you have not yet been permitted to fully know. Not because the universe was withholding it maliciously, but because the conditions for its arrival have only recently aligned, because certain pieces had to be in place before the whole picture could become visible, because you had to be standing exactly where you are now, having lived through exactly what you have lived through, for the reveal to be something you could actually receive, rather than something that would simply overwhelm. Think of it like this. There are photographs that exist in their full form long before they are developed. The image is already there, captured, complete, waiting inside the unexposed film. But it requires the right conditions, the right chemicals, the right environment of controlled darkness followed by light to become visible. And the photograph was not absent before the developing, it was simply not yet ready to be seen. What is developing for you now has that quality. The image has existed for longer than its visibility. And the developing the process by which what was latent becomes undeniable is either underway or approaching its completion. Let's go into what this shock might actually touch, because it will not land in just one place. The first place it lands is in your understanding of someone, not a stranger. Someone already inside the perimeter of your life, someone whose presence you have grown accustomed to reading in a particular way, whose intentions you believe you have measured accurately, whose position in the story of your life you thought was clear. That reading may be about to be revised, not entirely, not in the way of discovering that everything was illusion and nothing was real, but in the way of discovering that what you saw was true and incomplete simultaneously, that there was a layer beneath what was visible that you were not equipped to see until now, that the person you thought you understood was also carrying something for you or about you, or in relation to the history between you that changes the meaning of things you thought were already fully interpreted. The revision of a story you thought was finished is one of the most disorienting experiences a person can have, and also, sometimes, one of the most liberating, because finished stories have a weight to them, the weight of conclusion, of closed doors, of things placed firmly in the past tense. And when a story reopens, when a chapter you thought was done begins again, something that had been held tightly braced against the finality of it can suddenly release. That release is part of what is coming. The exhale after a long, long held breath. The second place the shock lands is in your understanding of yourself. And this one cuts deeper than the first. There is a version of yourself that you have been operating from a set of beliefs about what you are capable of, what you deserve, what is realistically available to you in this life that was constructed in conditions that no longer exist, built during seasons of limitation that have since passed, assembled from the evidence of a time when the evidence was genuinely limited, when the walls were genuinely closer, when the ceiling was genuinely lower than it is now. The shock that is coming may force a confrontation with the distance between that old version and what is actually true about you right now. Between the self-concept assembled during harder times and the person you have quietly, incrementally, almost invisibly become since then. Between the story of your limitations and the reality of what you are standing in the middle of, which is larger, richer, more alive with possibility than the old story has been willing to acknowledge. This confrontation will not feel comfortable. Growth rarely does, not at the moment of its breakthrough, not in the instant the shell cracks. But what emerges from the cracking is the thing that was ready to emerge all along and was only waiting for sufficient pressure to make the emergence necessary. You are approaching sufficient pressure. The shell is thinning. There is a symbol that keeps appearing at the edges of this energy, electricity, not as metaphor for romance or excitement in the shallow sense of those words, but in the older sense, in the sense of charge, of accumulated potential waiting for the right conditions to discharge. Electricity does not generate itself in the moment of the lightning strike. The charge builds slowly, invisibly, over time, the clouds gathering it molecule by molecule, the atmosphere thick with potential that has no visible form yet. And then, when the charge becomes too great for the air between cloud and earth to insulate against it, finds its path, it moves. Not randomly, but along the line of least resistance, the most conductive channel available, with a speed and a force that makes the long, quiet accumulation seem almost impossible to believe. Your life has been in the accumulation phase uh, longer than felt fair, perhaps. The charge has been building in ways that were invisible from the outside, invisible possibly even from the inside. No flash, no visible proof that anything was happening. Just the slow, patient, utterly invisible work of potential gathering itself. The discharge is approaching, the channel is opening, and when the strike comes, when the accumulated charge of everything you have been building finally finds its path into the world, the speed of it will be what shocks you most. Not the fact of it, but how fast, how complete, how little it resembles the slow, uncertain, incremental process that preceded it. Let's speak plainly for a moment about what preparation actually means here. Because the title says prepare, and that word deserves honest examination. Because preparation for something unprecedented is a strange kind of instruction. You cannot rehearse for lightning. You cannot practice being struck by something you have never been struck by before. What you can do is clear the ground. Clear the ground of the conversations you have been having with yourself about why certain things are not for you, about why the evidence of your own life suggests that a particular kind of outcome is unlikely, about why hope deployed in certain directions is a luxury you cannot afford to indulge. These conversations feel like wisdom. They feel like the accumulated discernment of someone who has learned from experience. And in some ways they are, but they are also, in this specific moment, the primary obstacle between you and the full force of what is attempting to arrive. Clear the ground of the relationships, the connections, the agreements, the comfortable arrangements that belong to an older version of your life. Not violently, not with the dramatic energy of someone burning bridges, but with the quiet honesty of someone who knows at the level where real knowing lives that certain things were right for a chapter that has ended, and that carrying them forward into the new chapter is not loyalty, it is ballast. Clear the ground of the identity that was assembled to survive what you have already survived. It served you. It kept you standing when standing required everything you had. But it was built for different weather, and the weather is changing. Here is the thing about shock that almost no one talks about. The moment of impact is not the hardest part. The hardest part is the moment immediately after the moment when the flash has come and gone and you are standing in the dark again. But the dark is different now because your eyes have adjusted to a brightness that no longer exists. When the image of what you saw in the lightning is burned into your vision, but the world around you has returned to its ordinary dimness, and you are being asked, by everything familiar and habitual and predictable in your life to pretend that you did not just see what you saw. Do not pretend. This is the instruction. When the shock comes, when the revelation lands, when the story revises itself, when the understanding of yourself or someone else in your life shifts in the way that something enormous, shifting shifts, do not immediately reach for the nearest explanation that makes it smaller. Do not rush to normalize it, to file it into an existing category, to translate the unprecedented into the familiar before the unprecedented has had time to be what it actually is. Sit in the changed dark. Let your eyes adjust to the new geography. Let the image that was burned in by the lightning become clear before you decide what it means. What is coming for you does not belong to the category of things that pass. It belongs to the category of things that establish, things that set a new baseline, a new floor beneath which your life after this simply will not go, not because something external has guaranteed it, but because what you will know after the shock has moved through you is not the kind of knowing that can be unknown. And what you will see in the light of what is coming is not the kind of seeing that can be unseen. The charge has been building, the channel is forming, and the speed with which it will all seem to shift from the long stillness of accumulated potential to the sudden, unmistakable, irreversible movement of it will be the shock, not bad, not good. Simply enormous, simply real, simply the moment that divides your life into before and after in a way that no amount of preparation could have made ordinary. You are standing at the edge of the before. The after is already forming in the dark gathering itself, assembling its pieces, moving toward the moment of its own arrival with the particular inevitability of a charge that has finally found its path. Ground yourself. Not to resist what is coming, you cannot resist lightning, but to receive it fully, to be present for it in the way that only someone who has done the slow, invisible, unglamorous work of becoming can be present for the moment everything changes. The flash is close, Virgo. Keep your eyes open.